Okay.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be joined by Jessica from Spirit Explorations tonight. And I'm really excited to discuss the work that you do, the experiences that you've had, and any fun stories that you want to share. So before we get started, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Of course. But first of all, thank you, Faye, for this opportunity and to talk to your audience. Since I am one of your audience, I kind of feel like people like your audience must have similar mindset as I do. So nice to connect with all of you. So anyways, my name is Jessica and I have my business Spirit Explorations. I'm primarily a hypnotherapist who specializes in past life regressions and life between life sessions as well. I also do channeling, mostly Akashic Records, and I do Reiki. That's where I'm at now. And I just want to keep continuing adding on my skills.
I think that's beautiful. And can you tell us was there a defining moment or a series of things that led to your interest in hypnotherapy and past life regressions?
I was thinking about it yesterday, actually. I first heard about hypnotherapy when I was in my early 20s. Where I was working at the time, my boss had just come into work. She's like, my husband stopped smoking. She's like, hypnosis. And that was like the first time I heard about hypnotherapy. And I'm like, wow, can that really happen? Can people actually stop their habits? And I went home and I was like Googling hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting, but I don't have anything that I'd want to use it for at this moment. But it always stayed in the back of my mind. Now, past life regression is something different. I didn't hear about that until like years later. It was a friend of mine who introduced me to past life regression. She sent me like an audio track on YouTube. It was by Bruce Goldberg. And I actually tried it. Nothing happened. I'm just like, oh, this doesn't work. But then I stayed a little bit more consistent with it. It's interesting because they try to take you back to a past life and they expect you to be a person. They're like, look down at your feet. What do you see? And I'm like, I'm looking down. I don't see anything. And then I just start to see flippers. I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realize I'm a dolphin.
No way.
I saw something and it was kind of exciting. It was just in little increments. Definitely, I've had other past lives since then. I've seen so many more details, but I started to trust the process a little. My friend also did a past life regression online, and we were trying to do one where she was trying to find out how she knew me in another life. And I did one the same, like how did I know about her in another life? And we saw a very similar scene. So I was already like, there must be something to this.
It's remarkable that you actually decided to stay with it, even though the first time you tried, nothing happened. I feel like at that point, a lot of people would have been like, this is nonsense, there's nothing to it, and they would have given up. So what do you think it was inside of you that compelled you to want to stay with it?
That is a good question. And it was years ago, but I guess something inside of me made me feel like it was real, even though I was actually pretty skeptical about it. I mean, I actually believe that there could be past lives, but I didn't think that hypnosis was going to lead me to the past lives. And I think my friend's excitement about it and kind of her telling me, "I'll give it another try." I don't think I was like trying for months, but I definitely had to try maybe 4 or 5 times before I started to see something. You have to learn to
So
trust it.
that's a very, very good point. I was actually going to ask you, what do you think it was that was the changing point in which you actually were starting to have those past life regressions?
Probably just starting to feel more comfortable with it and trust it. I mean, also like when I have people come to me before their past life regressions, I give them some exercises beforehand. So they're already a little bit more comfortable before they actually have their session with me.
Oh, interesting. It's fascinating that there's like a preparation that people can do in advance, almost like preparatory homework before they actually start doing it. And I know that I've done on my own, I've done a couple, and I've done a few. I actually did one with Brian Weiss in
Wow.
a huge auditorium in, where was it? In Pasadena. And he had actually said that, it's not uncommon for people to not actually have any sort of an experience the first time or even every time that they do it, but to not judge themselves harshly that they didn't even have any sort of an experience, that for whatever reason it wasn't maybe like the right time for them to have it, or there is some level of resistance. So do you feel like the exercises that you are giving people to do in advance is to help lower any level of resistance that they may have in preparation?
Exactly. Because a lot of people have fear of hypnosis in general. So
Yeah.
I send them like this audio track to practice with, so they don't have the fear of hypnosis. I say to them, I want you to be as comfortable before, during, and even after our session. So I also leave a lot of room before the session, in either when we first speak or even during the session, to ask me questions. Like, just before we start, I want you to be very comfortable. Do you have anything you want to ask me? Because I just want you to feel really relaxed with this process.
And then can you also share a little bit about what led you to have an interest in the Akashic records, and how does that work in tandem with past life regressions? And if you can also just share what, for anyone that may be watching this and is unfamiliar with what the Akashic records are, what in your experience they are and how they work in tandem with past life regressions.
Sure. It's interesting, my interpretation of Akashic records and others as well. But to me, they are like a vibrational library of past, present, and possible futures. So it holds like all of our thoughts, our actions, our past lives, for example, our past thoughts, our current thoughts. But primarily for me, when I use the Akashic records, of course, I can go into other people's past lives. But for me, it's a way for me to connect with my spirit guides or higher self and just get guidance. But the interesting thing is about the Akashic records, I brought them this question. I'm like, what is my purpose in life? And they said, to make people less afraid of death. And I'm like, wow, that's heavy. I'm like, how am I going to do that? And they asked me, yes, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then they wanted me to think about it. So it all kind of connected. I think I was shown like different things, like going to nursing homes and helping people like close to their death with like Reiki, giving them Reiki. But then it also came to me like past life regression. I remembered it like years later. I hadn't had like another past life regression experience since I had done that audio recording, I think, which was like 10 years prior. And it just kind of connected. And I'm just like, oh, maybe this is something I can learn and help people understand like who they were, like who they are, and maybe make them a little bit less afraid of death.
By the way, I had chills when you shared what your guides had shared with you and what your purpose is. But one thing that I always love about the guides is that they give us just enough, but they don't tell us how, they just tell us the what. And they allow us the space for us to actually do the work to get to where we're meant to be. And it's interesting that it sounds like you also have that experience as well. It's like they'll give you the what, but then they're giving you the space to figure out how are you getting there.
Yeah, maybe a little nudge or breadcrumbs, but you got to follow the trail. They've always
Yeah.
done that. I get so like frustrated sometimes. It's like, just tell me. That kind of takes fun out of it too.
Yeah, I've had a few instances where I kind of got like mad at my spirit guides for like not giving me more. It's like, really, like this, you're giving literally, sometimes it feels like breadcrumbs. And I know that we've also discussed about like how they can be kind of cheeky.
Yes.
Like there was this instance that you had shared about, you asked your spirit guides how you could be more fruitful. And the answer was by eating more fruits.
Yes. Another thing they said, it was years ago, but I said, how can I feel more happy or abundant in life? And they just kept showing me cheese, just cheese, like Swiss cheese, cheddar cheese. I'm like, I don't get it. But one night I was out with my friends, we were doing a group photo. I was very happy and someone said cheese and I smiled. And then I got the alarm, like ding, 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 ding. I need to smile more, be happy. It was just about that.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, and this is something that I've always kind of like shared with my viewers in my videos, that the way that the information comes in, and especially when I'm doing sessions with clients, it's like, it can be a metaphor, it
Yeah.
can be really, really literal, it can be a feeling, an emotion, a color, a scene from a movie.
Mhm.
It's just so fascinating the way they bring the information into us. And I'm curious, why do you think that that might be, the way in which they're bringing the information in?
I kind of like what you said earlier, well, they're just like little breadcrumbs, again, if I can use that analogy.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to know everything right away. I mean, they know for me that I kind of do like to unravel things a little bit, because when
Mm.
I actually get it, I like that, have a better sense of accomplishment. Like, oh, I solved it. They
Like
know.
that aha moment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're leaving space for you to have your aha moments, and not where they're like feeding it to you, but like they're giving you the satisfaction of solving it on your own, discovering it on your own.
I think some teachers are like that in the classroom as well. Instead of just giving the answers, they just keep asking you the right questions. They make you think,
Yeah.
they make you discover it on your own.
I think that's what really good teachers actually do.
Mhm. So our
Yeah.
spirit guides are just really good teachers.
Yes, they are. Sometimes they're exasperating, but they're also really good teachers.
Yeah.
So, as you know, for anyone who's wondering why I'm looking down, Jessica knows that I actually have a list of questions of things that I did specifically want to ask, but also to allow space for the conversation to go where it does go. But I outlined some, what I thought were really, really relevant things to kind of touch upon. So I also wanted to ask you, why, in your experience, do you think we have the memories that we may have of our past lives?
Mm.
Right? Like some people may have, like for myself, I knew even when I was very, very asleep, or when I had suppressed a lot of my gifts and abilities, I had really, really notable memories of being in a certain place. Like exactly what they'll do in a lot of hypnotherapy sessions when they're doing a past life regression is like, look down at your feet.
Mm.
Like, what kind of shoes are you wearing? Where are you walking? And I would see myself, not myself, but I would see like, where are my feet? What are my, like literally that, what kind of shoes am I wearing? And I had these very, very notable like memories of where I was going, what I was walking on, then lifting my gaze up off of the floor, looking in front of me and what I was seeing. So why do you think some people may have these really, really vivid memories of past lives?
Okay. So from my experience, when I had my first past life regression, I was still a little bit skeptical about it. Even when they were counting me down, I was like in a group. I was being like a subject for like a group of hypnotherapists to practice on. They're kind of counting me down. I didn't even think when they're that I was going to be in hypnosis. Not, I wasn't really feeling like I was going into hypnosis. But when they actually said 3, 2, 1, I could actually start to feel my eyes fluttering and be in that REM.
Mm.
And I started to trust that it was really happening. But still, I had a part in the back of my head like this, maybe this isn't really working. But when I started to see such vivid details, I just started to think like, I can't be making this up. Sometimes, for example, you're talking about look down at your feet. What are you wearing? I remember being in shoes so tight. All I could feel is my toes just so tight in the shoe. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm just making this up. Like I could feel like the back of my shoe rubbing on my heel and kind of giving me like a sore. All these small little details. I just don't think that I'd be creative enough to make that up in the moment,
Yeah.
if that answers that part.
Well, the question is, I mean, if
And
we have these memories, one could say,
mhm.
of these past lives, how do they, in a way, bleed into the current life that we're incarnated into? And what are they perhaps coming in to teach us? Are they coming in to teach us something? That's a better way of asking it.
Yes.
What do we have the remembrance for?
So I think that we have the remembrance just so we look at life differently with a question mark, because you always talk about what's behind the veil. So things like this make me have the question mark, like what's behind the veil. Like when you start to realize, if you have a spiritual awakening and then you start to go down the rabbit hole, like you just start to experiment with more like spiritual practices, or you do more research, like past life regression, seeing past lives just kind of made me want to like continue searching for the answers of like, why are we here? What are we doing? What do we have to learn? But I can say, and maybe you can say the same too, since you've had past life regressions. When you have a past life regression, it is usually mirroring something that's going on in your current life. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely.
So it's actually our past selves trying to help our current selves out. It's
Yeah.
really amazing. So we're actually taking like our past memories, past skills, just past energetic vibration, and just kind of transferring it into our current state and learning from it.
I think that is so perfectly said, so perfectly expressed, and really just brings it all together in such a way that resonates in a really, really deep soul level.
Mm.
Now, because you mentioned spiritual awakening, I know that you have mentioned in the past that you have had a Kundalini awakening. Can
Yeah.
you share what that is? And I'm not sure if you've also had a spiritual awakening, but if you have, if you can kind of talk about the difference between a Kundalini rising or a Kundalini awakening and a spiritual awakening.
To me, I would kind of say that they were very similar. I must say that when I was a child, I already had some spiritual abilities. So some people are like, okay, how can I develop spiritual abilities? And I'm like, well, I kind of came with some already installed. I will help you the best I can to still develop your intuition. But like my spirit guides were around before I even knew what spirit guides were, which was really, really frightening. So a lot of things that happened to me happened when I was younger. And I thought that most of this, because I was afraid to speak to other people about it, that I was actually going to take most of these secrets to the grave. It's only now that people are starting to become more spiritually awakened that I feel like I can finally express myself and come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, I guess.
Mhm.
And my younger self is actually very happy that I can do this right now. Just even to share like what I've gone through, because this was a secret and now I just am open about it, and that feels great. So as a child, yes, there's already strange things happening in my life, like hearing spirit guides and seeing ghosts and things like that. My mother did tell me that this does run on the female side of the family. So that was helpful. Not that I went to her all the time and said, okay, this happened, but I did tell her like, oh, I saw a ghost last night. She's like, I think I know which one you're talking about.
No way. Wow.
So, I mean, it was good that she could validate certain things. Yeah, it was really helpful, but still sometimes like I was a child, I was like floating out of my body. I'm like, what is happening? I had a lot of intuition. Unfortunately, a lot of it was for like bad things that were going to happen, which was unfortunate. My Kundalini awakening happened when I was in my early 20s, and I was at a meditation center. It was just like a free trial meditation class. I'm like, okay, I'm stressed out at work, and let me go meditate today and see if this helps. And I don't know, I guess I had a spontaneous Kundalini rising. And that is like a energy, or this is what they say it is, like a energy that sits at the base of your spine. They kind of portray it to be like a serpent-like energy, and it kind of goes up through your chakras and it goes out through your crown chakra. And in the moment, I felt like amazing. I felt like I was like in euphoria. I felt like magic. But afterwards, when I came back down to reality, I didn't ground very well. So then my life started to kind of spin out of control. So some people, I mean, like these days, there's like Kundalini yoga, other people that are meditating, they're purposely trying to raise their Kundalini. And I understand, but mine, I didn't even know what the word was. I had no idea what was happening to me. I just remember like trying to go back to my 3D life and not being able to like focus on anything. People were talking to me. I wasn't hearing it. I felt like I was floating outside my body. And I don't know, a lot of big changes in my life came from that. I like started to look around my friend circle, the place I was working, just saw everyone differently. I was working in fashion design in New York City at the time. So it was great for my early 20s, and I wouldn't say that I ever had a really big ego, but it did kind of like make me feel important to some degree. But after the Kundalini awakening, it didn't matter. I just started to look at everyone and I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're fighting over like a size of a button. We're getting all heated and stressed. And my boss she was worse than like the devil wears Prada. And I'm just like, I don't deserve to be treated like this. Nobody does, over something trivial, insignificant. And I don't know. Also, like going out with my friends, I just heard them talking. And I'm like, everyone's just talking about themselves. No one asked anyone anything personal about themselves. And I don't know. My Kundalini awakening said it's time to move on.
So I'm sitting over here smirking because, interestingly enough, I had a spiritual awakening when I was working in fashion as well. I don't know what it is. There is something about the fashion industry. It's like, it drives people, I think, to the other end of the spectrum, because it's like, to me, fashion feels like it's almost as 3D as 3D can get.
Yes.
And for the people that are starseeds or spiritually inclined, I think there's something about like being so deeply enmeshed into the three-dimensional that it acts like, you know, when you turn batteries to face each other the wrong way and they actually act as repellents instead of attractors. I feel like for some reason fashion to starseeds, it does that. It like repels us. It forces us to wake up in a way that maybe, I don't know, maybe it fast tracks our development.
Can you tell us a little bit about your spiritual awakening?
So it's interesting because I think we are maybe a Kundalini rising or a Kundalini awakening and a spiritual awakening are different. It sounds like yours was maybe more spontaneous and it was more like fast tracked.
Yes.
A spiritual awakening in my experience, or the way I experienced mine, was spread out between 12 and 18 months. And it started with this seed of discontent in my life, of having this job in fashion and realizing more so than that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Something about it made me feel like I was nothing more than a cog in a system. And that everything that I had been hired for was not being utilized. So at the time that I was hired, the hiring manager had told me, you have so many great ideas and we're really excited to see how you're going to utilize them. And then getting into corporate America, everything is very like red tape, bureaucratic, can't do anything without going through multiple channels of approval. And it was very stifling to the creativity inside of me. But I got a significant pay raise with it. And I felt like I hated this job, but I couldn't leave because of the money. And then I was like, so I'm a slave. And it caused this thought that I had never experienced before in my life, which was there has to be more to life than working for money to pay bills. And that was the beginning part of my spiritual awakening. And it took about 12 to 18 agonizing months of having everything that I was not stripped down and stripped bare and stripped away from me so that I could discover who I actually was and what I was actually meant to do here. And to lose the ego, right? Exactly. There's a huge ego death that comes with a spiritual awakening. And I think that's a necessary piece of it, because if we're egocentric, we can't connect to people on a soul spiritual level, because all we're tied up in is the labels. And it could be like literal labels, like what label, like what fashion labels are you wearing? But it can also be anything labelist based, like your name is Jessica, my name is Faye, you have brown hair, I have blonde hair. None of that matters when you see the soul essence of a person. So we actually need to undergo a complete ego death in order to become the full version of who we're meant to be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear that the Kundalini awakening is more of a, almost like a spiritual, like it's a spiritual combustion. But it sounds like the aftermath is exactly like a spiritual awakening.
Mm. Yeah, I think that so. I mean, it did lead me through other breadcrumbs as well. I mean, my whole, I guess we could say spiritual awakening, maybe it's still happening. I mean, I'm still growing as a spiritual being, but I do remember there was even times in my life when I just heard about like fluoride. I'm like, fluoride? And they're like, yes, it closes your pineal gland. And then I looked into it and I'm like, oh, yes, I guess it does. And I went down the rabbit hole and just like started to see life differently from that as well. Feels like my spiritual awakening is kind of in increments. Like I go through some type of turmoil and then I kind of even out and then it throws me something else. It's like, okay, she's evened out now. I think she's ready for more.
That's very much what it feels like, right? Like every time we feel like we've kind of like leveled up in some way, there's something new that we discover and something, a new rabbit hole that we want to fall down.
Mm, yeah.
It's
Me
just
too.
leading us to different versions of ourselves.
Exactly. We are still continuing to grow and evolve. So I'm sure I have still many more spiritual lessons along the way.
It's interesting. So for the viewers that are watching this, before we started to record, Jessica and I were actually talking about like the energies of what we're experiencing right now, because we actually are in eclipse season, and we have an eclipse coming up in just a couple of days, and then another one a couple of weeks later. And in a way, the energy of an eclipse feels a little bit like a mini spiritual awakening. It feels like being in a pressure cooker.
Mm.
At least it does for me. I'm kind of curious how the energy resonates with you.
Well, I have been more intuitive lately. So two things are happening. I'm just feeling exhausted, and the other part is just super intuitive. Like I can be thinking of someone and I come back into my room and then like I see their name on the phone, or I'm pretty much someone's thinking something and I answer it out loud before they even like say it out loud. I don't know. That's kind of been weird lately. Kind of cool, but I don't know, special energy going on right now.
I'm curious, for anyone who's watching this, if you're discovering that you're also super intuitive right now, comment down below. Let us know how you are feeling as we are getting ready to go through eclipse season. And are you feeling tired? Are you feeling like you're more intuitive? Do you feel like you're in a pressure cooker? Because we're all in this together. We just get to, share what the experiences are, but there's no wrong or right. Like they're all very specific to us, what we experience. But as much as it's specific to us, there's so many people who are having the exact same experiences that we're having.
Yeah. I've also noticed a lot more frustration in the air. People, the way they drive.
Right?
Oh, craziness.
Yeah, it feels like very Mars energy, like a
Hmm.
lot of that intense frustration.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That to me feels like the pressure cooker component.
If that's what you mean. Yes, totally
Yeah.
on that. I even
So
noticed it a little bit more in myself, and I'm usually like quite a calm person. But I even caught myself saying it to my mom today. I'm like, oh, I've been feeling a little bit more frustrated than usual. And like I've been going into overdrive meditating just to try to keep the balance.
right, to take the edge off.
Yeah. Because also the empath, so the people around me are affecting me as well. So I come home, I sage, I take a salt bath, I meditate.
You have all the tricks. You know exactly what to do.
I've been trying and
Yeah,
resting. I've been actually giving myself permission to rest.
good. That's the big one. I feel like especially, look, we can be very, very spiritual beings, even in the 3D. Being a spiritual being, we are still connected to this idea that our worth and our value is tied to our productivity and our output. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are starting to unlearn, which is it's okay to rest when we're tired. It's okay to not like finish going through all of your emails or getting through every stack of mail when you get home. Like, it's okay to pace yourself. It's okay to sit down and read a book. Like, this is a big thing that I think a lot of us are going to be unlearning in the new earth.
Agreed. It's still a lesson I'm learning myself, to be honest.
Right? To give yourself permission to just be.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, because while you were going through your Kundalini awakening, but also being in the fashion industry, it kind of makes me wonder, even like specifically about then, but even now, how do you balance being a spiritual being in the 3D world?
Okay. When I hear this question, it makes me think of two ways. I mean, I definitely have enough responsibilities that keep me very grounded in the 3D world. The other part of me, the spiritual side, I'm trying to find hope still in humanity. So this is something that I tried to cultivate because there's a lot of chaos going on in the world. And as a spiritual being, someone who's trying to help people find their purpose and just make the world a better place, sometimes I feel like it's a losing battle. Hate to say that, but sometimes I get that feeling like maybe we don't have enough people on the right side to be helping the world. So that's where I need to like look within myself and connect with my spirit guides and my other friends that are quite spiritual as well, and just kind of remind myself like we are making progress. Like, again, I talked about like when I was younger, I didn't have anyone to talk to. Talking about spirituality wasn't a big thing, but now I actually really see people waking up. And I am actually very excited about that. Again, like I'm excited that I can share these stories with you right now, but sometimes I just want it to happen faster. How would you answer that?
Yes, it did. I think it's such a common frustration that so many people are having right now, whether they're spiritually inclined or they're just, quote unquote, saying that they're awake. It's the frustration that we may be experiencing in like, why is it taking so long for people to wake up? Or why are more people not awake right now? Even if it's not a spiritually inclined person, it's just feeling like, imagine people that have been awake for 20 years.
I know.
I think about that sometimes. Like, I understand why people get black-pilled. It's like, okay, humanity, it's just a lost cause. Nobody is waking up. Like, it's just not going to happen. We're all screwed.
Oh, I have to remind myself that people are, though.
Yeah. It's like you're saying, look at how normal it is to talk about these topics. Go back 20 years. And I know, here's the thing. Yes, I get it. Like, we live in California. California's, it's its own kind of special breed, right? Like, it's very, very common for people to have conversations here that, for example, you might not find them having in, I was just back in New York visiting family over the holidays. It's topics of conversation you're not necessarily going to hear in a place like New York. But that's not to say that these people are not waking up. And that's why I think it's important that we have these conversations and that we normalize it and that we get our voices out there. So that way, when people start to have some idea of what it is, they can find voices. They can find like the Sherpas, so to speak, that have climbed the mountain, and we can show them the way.
Exactly.
Because it's, going through a spiritual awakening is very, very confusing. So for anybody that is like going through it, it's like, keep going. Because what's on the other side of it is a lot of, I almost don't want to say pure bliss, because it's not to say like, okay, you have a spiritual awakening and suddenly you don't have any problems anymore. It's not a fairy tale.
No.
We still have work that we have to do, and we still live in the 3D. It's just to say that when we're no longer attached to the false self, and we're no longer egocentric, it makes our interactions in the world feel that much better and that much more with ease. And it makes us finding other like-minded people. It's like, look at it this way. I'm getting a lot into like health right now. So I'm noticing that the people that are coming up in my Instagram feed are people that are into health. So it's almost like the AI is introducing me to people that are really, really like jiving with my vibration right now. So it's like once we start to wake up, our vibration changes, and then we're attracting more like-minded people. So, right? It's like even if it's like you feel weird speaking your truth and coming out and saying it, it's like, how are your people going to know how to find you if we're not vibrating at the vibration that's similar to other like-minded people?
Yes. And I also have to say, I'm an introvert, so it takes a lot more for me to talk about this stuff. But I have noticed the more vulnerable I am, the better connections I'm having with people. Like me taking a step forward to talk about these strange things that have happened in my life or just spiritual awakening, it gives them courage to talk about it too. Because I remember even when I was like 20 years ago, like it was taking me so much courage to say something. So I can imagine that might be the way they're feeling too in the beginning, if they're just finally going through this for the first time.
It's scary.
Mm.
We don't know what's going on. It's confusing. It's scary. It's at times can feel very, very horrifying. It is very, very vulnerable.
Can be
I
lonely.
remember like feeling, I was in big time hermit mode when I was going through my spiritual awakening. Like I would go out into the world to do errands. And this was like at the height of C19.
Mm.
And feeling this big divide because everybody was wearing masks and everybody was social distancing. And it was like, all I wanted was to see the real people. And it was like a barrier because they were so far away and they were wearing gloves, they were covering their faces. And it was so energetically exhausting. And I would come home and I would sit on my sofa and look outside my window, and the sun even felt brighter. It's like, because literally I felt like I was being stripped away of even like the protective layers in my skin were getting stripped away.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? It's so wild, but I don't even know how I got onto that. I mean, I kind of feel like people who watch my videos know I sometimes go onto these tangents. And to be very honest, I'm very excited to talk to you today too, because, you know, we're kind of like, so like, I think with like a lot of my viewers as well, we're all kind of like soul sisters. Because to talk about the things that we talk about, it's a different kind of intimacy and it's a different kind of vulnerability than we might have with other people out in the world.
That's very
Just,
true.
right? Like this is the stuff that gets people like labeled as crazy. So when we're just like going into it, guns a-blazing, and like we're going there. And we're going there and we're not ashamed of going there. And we're not embarrassed about going there. We're just going there. It's a different kind of level of vulnerability.
For sure. I choose my battles though. I don't do this like for everyone. I mean, it could be like a common person who doesn't seem spiritually enlightened at all. I'll just, if anything, maybe I'll just plant a seed. I won't actually just, have a spiel about like spiritual awakening.
Do you feel like you've kind of gotten tired of trying to wake people up and now you're just like, okay, they're exactly where they want to be and I respect that and I'm going to love them irrespective of where they are at?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I ever was pushing anyone, but like I said, I planted some seeds and I'm like, one day they might grow.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finally growing. I see people coming back to me, even my father. It was crazy. He's like, yeah, actually, I do believe in past lives. And I'm like,
Oh, no way.
yeah, he's just really level-headed too. And I'm just like, what? We're talking about this? This is amazing.
How did he take it when you told him that you were going to be, I mean, is this something that you shared with him early on, or is it something that you shared more recently?
No, I told him I was living in Asia before I moved to California, and I came back. I visited him for a couple months, and I'm like, I'm moving to California, Dad, and I'm going to be a past life regressionist. He's like, what? I mean, he didn't really understand too much at that point, but he just believes in me anyways. He's like, whatever you set your heart to do, I trust you're going to make it.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
that was really sweet of him. But last time I went to visit him, which was during the holidays, he actually turned off the football game to listen to me talk about past lives. And he was like really intrigued. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. If this can work for him, this can possibly work for others in the future at their own time when they're supposed to wake up.
Yeah.
I hope so, at least.
I love that. I love that he was like really looking to connect with you where you were at.
Yeah, that was amazing. I almost had to pinch myself. I'm like, are we really having this conversation?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you were saying before how your mom shared with you and the female side of your family these abilities that the women in your family have. So did you, even if it wasn't something that you were talking about, did you go through a period of suppressing it, or did you always accept your gifts and abilities?
No, I tried to turn them off because
Yeah.
I didn't want to be different. And honestly, I had enough stress as a teenager, young adult. I'm like, this is the last thing I need. I was almost like begging the universe, like, make it stop. Like, I just need to have a little bit of balance in my life. I don't need all these other things coming in. And then actually, a lot of it stopped, at least some of the more scary stuff, like seeing ghosts, for example. I'm like, thank you for the reprieve. I'm like, I might go back to this one day when I'm better prepared, but thank you. I needed this break.
It's so fascinating to hear that, because I had also a very similar experience where my probably some of my earliest memories were of paranormal experiences.
Yeah.
And I completely hear what you're saying about like be feeling like you're ill-equipped to deal with it, not wanting to be different. And I also suppressed my gifts and abilities for a great number of years. But when you did feel like you were ready to embrace them again, did you feel like you lost anything, or it's like they just came back like they had never left?
The reason I started to become more open again is because I found the right teachers. I thought like, okay, I need some support in this. And when I found the right support, that's when I was able to crack the door again. I can't say that the door was completely shut, but it was, much less than before. But it's really the teachers that I found, because when I was living in Asia, I was like learning the Akashic records and things like that, learning to channel more clearly, just their confidence and someone to be near me for all the questions I had, to make me feel like I'm not crazy, just to give me the guidance, support, the practice, just for me to actually even verify to myself, like, this is real. When you're doing like an Akashic record reading and someone else is there validating it, then you trust yourself again. And that was such a pivotal moment in my life, just that trust.
I think you're bringing up such an important point, which is the ability to trust ourselves and the ability to trust that whatever is coming in is real and true. No, we're not crazy. Yes, what's coming in is real.
Yeah, these conversations help as well. But if you're actually someone trying to develop your own skills, I would definitely say if you can find a good teacher, mentor, it's very important.
Yeah. The
Helpful.
validation, I think, is big,
Yes.
because I think so much of the path that we walk on to get to where we are includes suppressing our gifts and abilities and then trusting them when they start to come back. I know for myself, it's like, did I lose them? Like, did I somehow, this was before I understood that our gifts and abilities are contracted to us. You can't lose what's meant for you. We can develop them, we can work on them, we can make them stronger, we can welcome them, but you can't lose what we've always had. But I think having exactly what you're saying, somebody that can validate it, somebody that can hold your hand, so to speak, on an energetic level is very, very beneficial.
How did you learn to trust yourself and your abilities?
A lot of meditation.
Meditation is very powerful. Yeah, definitely.
I spent, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, a lot of time on my, my spot on the sofa, looking at that too bright sun, and then closing my eyes and then just retreating into meditation. I was journaling a lot, and journaling actually helped me to identify what was ego-based thoughts versus information that my guides were bringing to me.
Mm.
So kind of like learning to differentiate between the information, and also learning what my voice was and learning the voice, because like your guides have a certain,
Frequency.
yeah, they have and they also have their own personality.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So it's
Energetic signature.
like learning when something came in, what voice was it? That doesn't sound like me. I don't think that way. I don't talk that way. Oh, hold on a second. That's not my thought. That's actually a divine thought. But just taking like copious amounts of notes after coming out of meditation and learning to differentiate what were the different frequencies
Mhm.
and the different information that came in and the different voices that they were in. That was a big one.
Exactly.
And then, of course, I'm curious if you also did this as well. I was doing, I would say probably over the first few months that I was doing this, I was doing a lot of practice reading on friends. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I think I can do this. I don't really know. Like, I think I have this ability to read people's energy. I'm curious. So I would reach out to people that I didn't really know that well on Instagram. Like they were kind of like friends or maybe like friends of friends, but like people not like close friends that if I was to read their energy, they would say, yeah, but you're my friend. Of course you know that. So I
Mhm.
was reaching out to people that I didn't know that well. And I was like, I'm kind of, working on developing my gifts and abilities. I think I can read people's energy. I'm kind of curious if you would be open to me giving you a free reading. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to come up. And I had done about 6 of those and was told, I would say probably in 5 out of 6, the feedback I was getting is there's no way you could know that about me. But the people weren't scared. It wasn't like they felt violated. In a way, they actually felt like they were seen.
Mm.
And so once I was getting the positive feedback back from them, I was like, okay, I think this is real. I think I can actually do this. And at that time, it was maybe 4 months later, I launched my website and I started to really get into it. And I thought that was a big deal. But then actually, for me, the really, really big deal was launching my YouTube channel and then starting to put myself out there on a more public scale
Mhm.
and sharing, again, those
Mhm.
the thoughts that get us labeled. And I have to actually say that it's been very healing for me. So I'm curious if doing the work that you do right now feels healing to you as well.
Yes. Again, it just instills in me that there's something more than just us. It's amazing.
It brings a sense of comfort, right?
Yeah. And because the messages that usually come through, I mean, they're predominantly all love-based, very caring from a higher source. I mean, it's beautiful guidance for the most part. I mean, of course, there's some adjustments people have to make, but they kind of say it in a comforting way for the most part. But I can also feel it in my body. Because I also, I mean, when I started learning to channel, I was reaching out to strangers I knew nothing about. I just posted on Facebook. I didn't even know anything about them, like you. And I'm just like, can I do a reading for you in exchange for feedback? And these were people I'd never met, and I was already feeling their energy. And I could actually just feel their soul. I could feel their empathy. It was just amazing to connect with people. And sometimes if I'm doing a reading for people, I will actually cry during it because I will feel their soul or their heart or something that they really want to have happen. And it's just like a connection for me with someone I don't know very well. But at the end of it, I feel like I know them very well. And don't want to like say this to scare anyone off either. It's not like a validation of like borders. It doesn't ever feel like that, but it is like a true connection with another human being and their soul, which is just really beautiful.
I think you said it perfectly. It's the connection to another soul. It's a soul connection beyond the scope of I think anything else that we might experience. And maybe unless people were in like a shared traumatic experience together, like survivors of like a bank robbery, how they would be bonded together through that shared experience. But I think, yeah, when you're working with somebody on a soul to soul level, it's a very meaningful kind of connection and exchange of energies.
Hmm. Yeah. And most people really do have big hearts and care a lot.
It sounds to me like you're also an empath. Like you're
Right.
an introvert and you're also, because you're saying like you're feeling the energy of a person. So that very much sounds like an empath.
Yes, that's why I have to sage regularly. Not to say like everyone's energy is bad, but I do take on the energy of the people around me. And I used to live in New York as well. I remember being like on the subway and all the people. Oof. That's before I
That,
knew how to cut cords and clear energy. It definitely
right? That shit will drain you like nothing else will.
helped.
How did you discover that you were an empath and how did you learn how to protect your energy?
Probably from books. I think it was books. I mean, I've had teachers reinforce it, but I used to when I was younger, 9, 10, 12, I don't know, like those ages when I was trying to figure things out. I mean, the internet had just come out, but I wasn't like researching spirituality. I was going to like Barnes and Nobles and going to like the small section in Barnes and Nobles that talk about like spirituality. And I would just sit there looking through all the books, just trying to find the answers. And sometimes I'd find really meaningful books. They were like my, I don't know, spiritual Bible or something that were kind of telling me like, oh, the symptoms I'm having, someone else has had them too. I think it's from those books that I was just learning about like chakras and energy clearing and self-discovery.
Thank God for those books.
I know. But now we have the internet. We have so many more tools and we have more people to reach out to. I remember chat rooms were just starting to be a thing. And I found like one guy who had Kundalini experience and we were just sending each other emails just to like comfort each other. But now it's definitely more predominant. I'm really happy for people that they have more information and more support.
We get to be the light for other people who are waking up behind us or
Yeah,
after us.
I think so. I mean, for my business, that's primarily the niche that I'm working in or the target. I mean, mostly I'm working with women or men. Actually, there's been more men recently, but people who are having a spiritual awakening. I'm just kind of like helping them along the way for support, basically, and just trying to show them like the different modalities that I do and seeing their curiosity in it because each one of them can help peel back another layer to get closer to themselves, closer to your soul.
Do you feel like when people are having a past life regression with you, it's helping them close out perhaps questions that they have in their current incarnation and current experiences that they're going through? It's helping them come to some sort of a conclusion or helping them get past something that they're experiencing?
That's my hope. It seems like it because there's also in the best case scenario, and this is what I hope for every client, that after we do the past life part, that I can connect them with their spirit guides. And in this realm, they have a chance to ask their spirit guides or higher self any question they have about their life, about like the universe. Like I just say, bring it all to the table. Let's see what your spirit guides have to say. But essentially, I'm teaching them to channel for themselves and to trust in themselves that they can do it without me. Like maybe I'm the person they go to first to kind of help them build the skill, but in the end, they can do it themselves. And I'm just helping them with that trust because they're getting this information from their spirit guides. And sometimes it's flowing so quickly. And some of the information or guidance they're getting is just amazing. And I'm like, see, you can do it. You can connect with your own higher self and spirit guides, and the guidance lies within you. You don't really need me. Of course, I'm here, but you don't really need me.
That's beautiful. And there was that word again, trust. You're helping them trust themselves.
That's my hope.
It's beautiful. It's
Wonderful.
really, I think that's what we all need as we're waking up, is to trust the experiences that we're having and to trust that we're divinely guided and we're divinely protected.
Exactly. Yeah,
And that we can connect to our spirit guides.
exactly. And all of our past lives and our Akashic records. We have a lot of wealth of information there.
Can you share some experiences that you have had leading past life regressions? If there was any really, really notable or meaningful experiences that a person had while they were going through their past life regression?
Hmm. I remember a unique past life regression where the girl actually saw herself as a spirit guide.
Oh,
And
no
she
way.
was protecting another human soul on the planet, which was really amazing. So she was just like following him, and when he was getting in trouble, she was like manipulating things where he could be safe. And I'm just like, oh, that's really unique. I've never led a past life regression like that before. So that was kind of a special one. One of the last ones I had personally, it was my spirit guide telling me about her past life. I'm like, oh, I never thought about my spirit guide having a past life, but she showed it to me, and it was also very nice.
Was her past life in any way connected to you, or was there a takeaway in how she came to be your spirit guide in this life that was somehow notable and connected to the life that she had shared with you?
Not necessarily, but she's been in another past life of mine. So she has been pretty close to me throughout multiple, I don't know, I can't say like time is real to some extent, but she's
Mhm.
with me through the long haul. And every time she doesn't like it if I like look at her like higher than me. She's like, no, 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 we're the same. We're the same. She's like, don't put yourself lower. We're all the same. We have a common goal. We're working together.
I
But she's
love
like, I
that.
just thought I wanted, she's like, I just wanted to show you my past life so you would know a little bit more about me.
That's beautiful.
It was interesting.
I never even thought to do that, but guess what I'm going to be doing in meditation after? I'm going to be like asking my spirit guides to like share their past lives with me.
Yeah, I never even thought about it before. So yeah, it was
That
kind of,
is so cool. But that's cool that you had one of your clients sharing what that I mean, that's definitely kind of aligned with some of the experiences that I've had in meditation, which is this understanding that our spirit guides just love us to death because they've had the experience of being alive. So
mhm.
they know what it feels like, the density of having the body and the stress and the pressure that we have. They're no longer in the confines of it, but we are in the thick of it. They just love us for being the badasses that we are and having those experiences.
Yeah, I would say. They make a joke. They're like, take one for the team.
It's just nothing but love though, right?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
It's
Yeah.
just like so much unconditional love that they're sharing with us.
Yeah, I would say.
So guys, anyone who's watching this, even on your bad days, you are like so loved. It's beyond comprehension.
Yes, I would definitely stand behind that.
I love that. I'm curious if you, I asked you that question. What do you most enjoy about the work that you're currently doing right now?
It'd be kind of to repeat what I said before about having people like be able to channel for themselves, but also usually during a past life regression for the first time, maybe even other ones. Usually when they finally come out of hypnosis, I would say the majority of the time, the first thing someone says is, wow, that was so much more than I was expecting. They're like, I didn't expect to have such intense emotions or see things so clearly or just have feelings or cry or laugh. They're like, I think if I was making this up, I wouldn't have cried or I wouldn't have felt all these emotions. And I'm like, yeah, see, you just got to kind of trust the process though. But it really does kind of, I don't know, it can be, I would say in a way, it is like a part of a spiritual awakening. It is something that is inside of you that afterwards, I don't know if your experience was like this, but um, you just kind of come out of it with another realization that there is still more to life than what we know, like what's behind the veil, who we are. I mean, I think past life regression is a great way just to feel how eternal our soul is. And also just to feel more connected. I guess when I started to learn to be a hypnotherapist, when I went through my hypnotherapy training and learned about past life regression, I only thought I was going to see a past life. It was just my curiosity to only to see a past life. I didn't know how much more was going to come along with it. I didn't know that I was going to connect with my higher self and give myself guidance. I didn't know how far past lives could go. In fact, I don't even want to just say past lives. People can go into hypnosis and see a future life or a life even on other planets, which is amazing. All these things I had no idea. So just have an open mind, but you're usually going to go where you're meant to go that day. And usually you're never shown any more than you can handle. That's what I would say to most people who might be a little bit hesitant about things.
I think what you brought up is so interesting in terms of, because if we're saying, and you kind of touched on this before, that like time's not really real. We're actually having our past lives and our future lives simultaneously. And the kind of the example that I've given in one of my videos, if you think about like the rings on Saturn, so our lives are on those rings. So our future life is just on a different point of the ring. Our past life is on a different point of the ring, but they're all actually on the same ring and they're all happening simultaneously. So what has the experience been? Have you actually experienced your future lives through your own, I guess you wouldn't call them regressions, you would call them progressions?
Yeah, future and progressions.
And have you also been able to give that experience to some of your clients as well, where they've got to see their future progressions?
Yes, but I would still say there's free choice. These seem to be possibilities. And in
Yeah.
fact, they're great. They're usually shown to someone as like forks in the road. Like, okay, so if you went down this fork in the road, this could be what happens. Or if you went straight ahead or to the right, like these are the vibrations or the possibilities, let's say that could happen. It's just to make you see things from a higher perspective.
It's more like potential lives that could be playing out.
I guess, okay, maybe I should make it more clear. It can show you your future in this current life. That's kind of what I was talking about there. But yes, people have seen future lives too, where they go into like year 2000 and I don't know, 80 or something and see things with technology. That doesn't happen as often, but it can happen. It's still teaching them a lesson. They still see themselves or a future self, and they still have lessons to learn. You kind of have to see how the story plays out, but it will still mirror a situation that they're currently going through and give them advice. It's a little bit more rare, but it can happen.
But it's like anything that's coming in, it's just like with the regression, that it's connected to what they're either going through at that time or a takeaway that they're meant to have through that experience.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Did you feel the same from your past life regressions?
Absolutely. They were very very much connected to what I was experiencing at that time in my life. I remember one of the past life regressions I had was I was shown that I was a warrior, like a Roman warrior. And I remember, again, like they do in all the regressions, like look down at your feet. What kind of footwear are you wearing? And I was wearing like the gladiator sandals, and I was like looking at my body, and I saw that I had the armor on, and I was looking around at where I was. And I was going through a hard time where I kind of like needed to embody my inner warrior.
Mm.
And then I was taken to the end of that lifetime. I was shown I was like a retired warrior, and I died. I think is this common? I'm curious if you actually do this in your regressions too, where you take the person to the end of that incarnation. But when I was doing this one, I was taken to the end of that particular incarnation, and I was shown myself as like this retired warrior, and I died like fat and happy, like with the spoils of the war around me. And so it was the lesson, the takeaway in that particular incarnation was that the warrior component of ourself isn't forever, and there is an end of it. And whatever that end of it is, we're always on the other side of what we're going through. So whether it's like a literal war or a literal battle, or if it's a hard time in your life, there's always another side of it. You're always going to get to the end of it. And the end of it in that lifetime was I was like a fat, happy, retired warrior.
Okay.
But it was very much, I got the message that I needed at that time was
Yeah.
to, it was reminding me I've had lifetimes of actually being a literal warrior.
Sometimes you're just trying to tap into the vibration of the feeling you had then.
Yes.
Sometimes I have some women, maybe even men, they come for a session and they just remember a love story and they feel a little bit void of love in their life currently. And they're like, why did I experience this beautiful love story? I'm like, because when you are reminded of the vibrations, if you let it flow through your body, like when you come out of it, like you step outside and you still have the vibrations in you, you could possibly, more likely, attract love into your life because you're feeling love. Kind of changes, like it's like a mood change, or just like if you're unhappy, for example, you might have a past life regression where you're experiencing a lot of love and bliss and contentment, and you come out of the session, you still have those vibrations inside of you, and that can help you attract more of those feelings into your life. So it's kind of like a recalibration, if that makes sense. So that's really beautiful. I never expected that. That's just something I've seen throughout time working with clients. But
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it's really amazing.
Have you also ever I don't think this would fall under a regression, but maybe like you're saying, you can sometimes see, or maybe your clients have seen like where they're from. Have you ever seen where you're from?
Do you mean, what do you mean?
Like where your soul's essence is from?
Ah,
What's your home base, so to say?
oh, I don't know if I don't know exactly about my home base, but they did tell me what I do every night in my dream state.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, because I sometimes I wake up really tired. I'm like, wow, what have I been doing? And I got to ask this question in a past life regression because I have my own past life regressionist that I work with as well. In fact, we're having a session tomorrow. But they showed me I'm a spiritual guidance counselor for souls who are going to reincarnate, and we go over the possibilities of what they can have lined up in their different choices of lives they're going to choose.
Oh, get out. That's fascinating.
It's fascinating, which kind of lines up with what I'm doing today in a sense as well.
It's very, very, it's all interconnected, isn't it?
I know, it's true. So I guess I'm working day and night.
Wow. Do you wake up ever feeling rested?
Occasionally they give me a break, of course. I tell them I really need to sleep, I need to feel rested so I can focus on, 3D reality as well.
Oh God. Wow. That is absolute. I was not expecting that. That's wild.
But yeah, maybe tomorrow I should ask about my soul essence and where I originate from. But I do those sessions, Life Between Lives. Have you ever heard of those or done one?
What's that?
So that is primarily, we spend most of the session between the lives, between your reincarnations. So it's actually after the body crosses over and what you do in that time before you reincarnate again. So people go to special places. I don't want to ruin the surprise for anyone. There's
Ruin it.
Well, everyone's a little bit different, but it's just kind of like how the soul sees their past life and then how it decides to reincarnate again, what lessons it chooses, how it decides what kind of person it wants to be in the next life, if it wants to be a man or a woman, or just what kind of lessons. What is it going to take from the previous life to the next life to kind of complete the cycles of lessons? But also
I
there's like a chance, where they can like go to source, or they can go to like this resting spot or some place of rejuvenation, or where all the souls are depositing their memories into the Akashic records. It's a really, everyone's experience can be a little different, but it is kind of a feeling of merging with, let me find the right word, unconditional love. That's what I would say.
I think this is something really important to talk about, because I do get asked a lot of questions if, people that have harder incarnations. So to bring them like this message of positivity and hope in empowering them to understand that we're not like these hapless victims, right? We're not pinballs in a pinball machine getting knocked around by life. We do have free will, but the big soul lessons, we agreed or we chose them prior to our incarnation. So I think it's really important that we're having this conversation, that we're discussing this, that this is another kind of like layer of verification for anybody that is having a really, really hard go at life, to remind you that we're not victims, and that sometimes the experiences that we're having in any particular incarnation is a karmic rebalancing, right? From leftover karmic residue, if you will, of a previous incarnation. We also sometimes choose experiences that we want to have.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of what you're sharing. It's like this period in between where we cross over, but before we're incarnated again, we can kind of like upload our life memories into the Akashic records. We can go to like the soul spa to heal with God. And then we can kind of like sift through the different options that we have to curate the kind of life experience we want to have in our next incarnation.
I would say a lot of it has to do with karma, but not all the time. Sometimes it might just be one missing piece of the puzzle of something you haven't experienced. So like the last life you might ever have might be a life as a beggar on the street being poor, just because you haven't had that experience yet. You just want to get as much flavor, experience as many flavors of lives as possible, just to be the 360.
Yes, I think that is so well said. That we can, a lot of the things that we are perhaps partaking in is experiences as we're closing out our karmic cycles here on earth before we get ready to move on for good. It's like, I may have, well, God, I've had a host of fantastic lifetimes. I've had wealth, I've had riches, I've had love. I want to have the duality. I want to have the experience of having a harder lifetime.
Exactly.
It's like one last go. What have I not had in all of my previous incarnations? I want to have that experience before I move on for good.
Exactly.
It's
an interesting concept, isn't it?
It's very, very interesting. I know for myself it's a concept that has brought a lot of comfort to me, was kind of like shifting out of this, why are these things happening to me? And reframing it as, why are these things happening for me? Because nothing is happening to us. It's all happening for us. It's to help us evolve, or it's to get us onto a a higher timeline or a different soul path, but all the experiences that we're having, we've either chosen or it's to help us close out previous karmic debris
Hmm.
so that we can kind of like close one chapter out and move on from them.
Mhm. Exactly.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a lot. I'm gonna really like tonight. I'm gonna really be thinking about that.
Good. Yeah, I hope the people that are listening as well, we hope that we planted a seed for you to think about this as well.
Yeah, we have actually a lot more power
Mm.
in the experiences that we're having than perhaps we maybe part of it is kind of like programming as well. But I think we have a lot more power in what we're enduring than we've been led to believe that we actually have.
You mean like
Because if we take the spiritual component out of it,
Mhm.
what are we all here for?
Yeah,
But
that's
once we bring the spirituality back into it, it gives us a more robust understanding of why are we even here? What are we even doing here?
inner
Like
knowing.
the inner standing.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
So do
Exactly.
you think there's some sort of a, let me try to think of like the best way to actually phrase this. Why do you think there's been what seems perhaps like a concerted effort to wipe out a connection to God, or spirituality, or to even frame religious people in a negative light?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, it does seem like they want us to forget the power that's within us. So, but like we mentioned earlier, more people are waking up. They can't stop it. But in general, I think it's about suppression. I mean, we are actually really powerful spiritual beings. We're very infinite. So, I mean, we're easier to control when they like push us down and make us like fearful or believe that we're nothing. So if we can cultivate the power and that inner knowing through our spiritual practices, then we can be unstoppable. At least I hope so. This is my hope.
I kind of agree with you though.
Hmm.
Yeah, if we're kept in a low vibration, if we think you only live once, right? Like YOLO. If we
Yeah.
think that we only live once, so let's have all the experiences that we can have, it's going to lead to probably people making a lot of unhealthy choices in their life. It's like, oh, I just want to consume as many experiences I can have before I die. But it's like, if we knew that we were infinite, if we knew that only our body dies, but our soul lives on, people I think would be a lot more relaxed and not feeling like they need to consume every possible experience in one go
Hmm.
because we're infinite.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
definitely one way of looking at it. But I want people to explore from this for themselves, though. I like
What
tell people, I'm like, don't take what I say as truth. I'm like, please find your own. I mean, explore for yourself, really. Find your inner knowing, find your truth, see what resonates with you.
I'm curious if you would share a list of, or maybe just not even a list, a few of the books that you feel have really been essential in supporting your evolution and your growth. And maybe sharing a few of those for the people that are watching this video as well.
Hmm. I don't know if I will remember the name of all of them, but I would say, at least for the authors, Dolores Cannon is one of them, sure. And then Dr. Brian Weiss, and oh, there's another famous one. It's probably on my shelf. One second.
So while Jessica is getting the book, I'm just going to share with
It was
everybody.
Dr. Brian Weiss.
Wow, that was actually really fast. I was like, holy shit, you came back so fast.
Who's the other one?
Dr. Let's have it. Give us
I'm
the good.
I'm just blanking on the other famous one. I don't know. I'm just blanking.
That's
But
okay.
is there any that stand out for you?
I would say Brian Weiss's Many Masters, Many Lives. I would list as one of the top, right? That's one of the top 3 books that I feel changed my life.
Mhm.
And yeah, having a past life regression with him was like,
Mm,
it was kind of like, like a pinch me moment.
that's much.
That was just to be in the to have the experience of being regressed by him, and to be in a, kind of like a convention center with like-minded people, and the energy, again, because just being an energy worker, being around that energy was so magical. I would say that's one of my top 3 books. Another one is a book, I don't remember the author's name, but it's called Lost Connections.
Mhm.
And that is a book about um, kind of understanding that there, how do I say this? For anybody that feels maybe hopeless in their own life, there's not necessarily something wrong with us. It's almost like we're in a world gone mad.
Hmm.
So he's talking about, the entire book is kind of like talking about all of the things that might be going on in somebody's life that is causing them to feel maybe anxious or depressed. And one of the big takeaways is that there's this big fallacy that people that are taking antidepressants, it's because there's a chemical imbalance in their brain, but it's actually being proven that that's like maybe 1%. So depression is actually caused by situations in a person's life. And he goes through all of the lost connections that a person may have that has led to their experience of depression.
So
So that
situation.
was a great book to kind of reframe it. And it got me to kind of view the world through a different lens in understanding why we sometimes feel disconnected.
That
And it's
makes.
not just about disconnecting, feeling disconnected from other people. It's feeling disconnected from our path, our purpose, our passion, our meaning, our
Mhm.
soul. It's so all encompassing.
Exactly.
And then I would say the third book, I haven't read it in many, many years. It's by, I believe his name is Paulo Coelho.
Yes. Right.
He's the author of The Alchemist. That's not actually on my list, even though that's a great one. It's actually a book called The Valkyries. And
Oh,
it's about a couple that go in search of meeting their guides or their guardian angels.
that's amazing.
And there's some really, really great takeaways in that book for anyone who's interested in reading it. There's some really, I don't want to give it away, but there's one thing that I read in that book, and it was like I've had a light bulb moment, or like a real aha moment, and I actually implement what I read in that book. And again, I don't want to share it. I want everybody to have like their own aha moment, but there was some really beautiful takeaways in it. So those are my top 3.
Nice. All right.
So
Remember the name
maybe,
of the other author though, Michael Newton. Can't remember which book it is, but he is another one who does a lot of books on past life regression.
what's his name?
Newton.
Michael Newton?
So I hope so. Still, I had a bit of a blank, but I think that's it.
And I'm also going to actually encourage everybody to, first and foremost, check out Jessica's. I, I'm, I've shared this with you. I really, really love your Instagram because your creativity comes through. The stories that you do on there are they're really, really interesting, and they're exciting, and they're fresh, and it's like in another life you for sure have been like an artist, or maybe in like a future life you're like a really, really like, I don't even know, but your stories are fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, you
It's
told me.
late, I'm tired, I'm not as articulate as I usually am. check out her Instagram page. You will be feeling inspired when you watch her stories.
Thank you.
Your stories. I don't want to talk about you like you're not even here. Your story.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. My Instagram could use some love. That's for sure.
Girl, I just put up today that I like my social media needs help because it's what I enjoy doing least in all the work that I do. So it's like I'm right there with you. I know exactly how you feel about that.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, it's a great way to connect with people, but I just don't like being on my phone, honestly, and being on social media. But it has
And
its
then like also like trying to sell yourself and like show that we have inherent value. It's exhausting.
I just want to do my purpose. I don't want to be a sales
Right?
person.
Yeah, like not get bogged down. Like it's hard enough being a spiritual being in the 3D, but it's like getting bogged down with like the day-to-day stuff of the work we do. It's just not exciting. To me, it's like being back in math class in like 7th grade.
Mm. Yeah,
I just was not built for that stuff.
but you're great for YouTube. So this is the
Thank you. Thank you. I like I said before, it's been one of the most healing experience. So I actually do want to just share this for anyone who's watching this. I thought I actually resisted telling my mom what I was doing for a while because I thought she's going to think I'm out of my mind. Again, that label, right? I'm crazy. I thought there's no way she was going to understand it. She was going to think that I was out of my mind. I didn't want to share. I don't even remember how many videos I had recorded before I shared it with her. And then I told her like, oh, I launched a website and this is the name. And this was like months later. And she's like, what is it again? And I didn't even want to like tell it to her again. I wanted to just like one and done. It's Solar Flow. That's it. Let's move on. But there was a really big turning point that happened when I started to, I think she was realizing I was really called, like I felt called to this. Like I was, I think, showing up differently in my life to her. And she was trying to connect the dots and understanding why I was different. And I think she realized it was because maybe it was the videos. So she started asking more questions about it. And one day I caved in and I shared a video with her. And that was a big turning point in my life because it opened up a different level of connectivity with her that I had not previously experienced prior to that, where she was seeing me in a different way than I think she had seen me before, but where I was also sharing parts of myself with her that I had been too shy to share prior to that. So it was a real turning point in the relationship that I had with my mom when I started to share these things with her. And she's kind of turned into she's one of my big cheerleaders right now. You know, she's always asking like, how many subs do you have now? And she'll talk to me. Yeah, so I watched the video, and like, she likes to unpack after she watches the videos with me. And she likes to kind of like, it kind of opened up this whole different part of our relationship than we had ever shared before. And from that, she actually asked if I would do a reading for her. And I think that was one of the, I don't want to cry. That was actually one of the highlights of my life.
Aww.
Because I felt really seen in a way that I had not been seen before. Because who do we want the most? We always want our parents to be proud of us.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that shared experience with her was, it was really one of the top moments in my life. And I can't even like articulate it, as you can see. But I think it was also incredible because my father passed away 7 years ago. And my dad came in really, really strongly in the reading. So to, first of all, share that gift with her, to bring her messages from my father. They were married 44 years before my dad crossed over. So to kind of be the intermediary and the conduit in which I could bring these messages through, and then to bring her messages from her mother and messages from her father.
Wow.
I could have died in that moment and I would have felt like I had fulfilled my meaning in life.
Exactly.
And I love also that this has opened my mother up in a different way as well, to be more like my mom always is. She's a little bit more like logical, a little bit more of like a black and white kind of thinker, not so into the spiritual. This has really opened her up to her gifts and abilities, because my mom is fantastically gifted. And I remember 20, 30 years ago, she would go to a wedding and she would come home and she'd be like, they're going to be divorced within 5 years. And she wouldn't know how she would know it. But sure enough, that couple would end up getting divorced. And she would always just kind of like dismiss it, like, oh, I don't know, I saw something. She's fantastically gifted. So through this experience, I've actually been able to open her up to her gifts and abilities as well.
Teaching
So
her how
it's
to
been, yeah, it's been really, really meaningful. And I love the thrill isn't just that I get to experience this with my mother. I have the same thrill when I'm doing this with my clients, when I'm validating their gifts and abilities, where, you know, where they might have a question, like, I feel like I might have this gift. Can you confirm this? And I'm like, not only do you have this one, but you have these, and bringing these things into them. And then they're like, oh my God, yes, this all makes so much sense. It's not just thrilling when it's your family. Anytime we get to do our meaning and our purpose and help people, it's a thrill. And I'm actually curious if you've done a past life regression for your mom or dad.
I have done one for my mom before. It was really amazing.
Right? It's when you can share that with your parent, it's like, right?
Yeah, my mom's one was a little bit strange because she actually started speaking from a child's voice. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but she was like speaking from a child's voice during the French Revolution. I'm like, wow. She's like, it's over, the war is over. I'm going out with mommy and daddy and I'm wearing my pretty shoes. I'm like, whoa.
Holy I have chills right now.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Literally, they can really, really connect to the previous lives we've had. It's wild.
Some people do. Some people really even they speak different languages. They change their voice. You just never know where it's gonna go.
It's magic that you get to experience that with them.
Definitely. Wow. It's very rewarding, and I'm always I never know what's going to happen, but it's always for the highest good. So I just trust that they're protected. I always use levels of protection, and I kind of just let their higher self and spirit guides kind of like lead the way. I'm kind of there just to hold their hand if they need it. Metaphor.
Oh my God. All right. I have one question left, even though I feel like I could talk to you all night. So guys, let us know if you want me and Jessica to do a part 2 to this, because I feel like there's so much more that we can discuss. But I was actually just curious, what are you most looking forward to? Either, there's a couple of different ways of saying this, either about the future or about, like, depending on how esoteric you want to go, like the new earth. But what are you most looking forward to?
That is interesting. What am I looking forward to? Well, again, I think I would say just more people waking up. I would say I can't say for sure what the new world's going to look like. I think there's different possibilities of that. But for sure, people are waking up, and that's a form of my excitement and hope to keep going, is just seeing that I don't know if I can say, like, our team is getting bigger. Like, there's more light workers and, star seeds and stuff. I'm just starting to, like, my family, my soul family on this planet is growing bigger. So I even feel like you're part of it as well. So
I am now. And hopefully a lot of my viewers that are watching this are going to be part of it as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I think, part of what it means to be awake in 2023 and aware. It's to find our soul family, or to find our tribe, so to say.
Be reconnected.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, find each other again.
to find each other again and to realize there's more of us than we may actually be aware of. You know, because again, if we turn on the news, it's all three-dimensional based. But once we can get out there and connect with like-minded people, and then we connect with other like-minded people, we actually realize there's a lot of us that are really, really awake and really aware.
Yeah. I'm just so happy to see that. Again, like my younger self, I'm just so happy to be here having this conversation and know that there's going to be some people that appreciate it
Many people.
and be inspired, hopefully, by it as well.
Yes. And guys, anyone who has not done a past life regression, do one. Reach out to Jessica. And you actually you don't just do one-on-one, right? You do like group, you do like past life regression parties also, right?
Yes. I do.
Guys, get your friends together, do a past life regression party. The energy, really, really rewarding to do it in a group of people. But I think it's also like, if you have people that you're friends with, when you do this with them, you're going to just feel closer to them and bonded on a different kind of a level.
Yeah, you'll definitely have some stories to share.
Yes. I'm with you. More people waking up.
Yes.
Jessica, this was amazing. I don't remember the last time I was this giddy. You know, usually when I'm doing an interview, like I try to take a step back and just leave a lot more space for the guest. But I think this was just so exciting to have this beautiful meeting of the minds. And you were so gracious and also asking me questions, even though I wanted to interview you. So thank you for being your beautiful empathic self, and wanting to open the floor to me. But I just love this. I love talking to you. I love the sharing of ideas and information. This was so rewarding for me to do as well. And thank you for taking the time to talk with me tonight. Thank you for taking the time to share your beautiful energy and your experiences with all of the people that are going to watch this video.
Yeah. Also, I really enjoyed this. It's great. I loved your stories as well, especially the one about your mom.
Oh, thank you.
It was really, really special. It touched my heart a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's going, I I can't even. I just can't, guys. I can't even. But guys, check out down below. There's going to be links for how to get in touch with Jessica. I'm really going to encourage you to check out her social media. Her stories are really, really fun to watch. And book yourself either a past life regression with her or do like a party past life regression. You're not going to regret it, guys.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This was really a treat.
Thank you too.
Namaste, my dear.
Bye.
Bye. Now I have to figure out how to stop this record. Here we go. Bye.
All right. Bye. If I turn it off from my side, does that work?
I'm going to stop it right now.